The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Dover Publications, Abridged Edition. Chapter 10. The Ogre. On perceiving the minister's agitated demeanor, Louis violently pushed back the table at which he had been sitting. "Why, Baron," he cried, "what is your trouble? You appear completely upset. Is your agitation in any way connected with the report given by Monsieur Blacas and confirmed by Monsieur de Villefort?" "Sire," stammered the Baron. "Well, go on," replied Louis. The Minister of Police was about to throw himself in despair at the king's feet, but the latter drew back a step and, knitting his brows, said, "Well, are you going to speak? I command you to give me your news." "Sire, the usurper left Elba on February the 28th and disembarked on March the 1st in France, at a little port near Antibes in the Gulf of Juan. The usurper disembarked in France near Antibes in the Gulf of Juan, 250 leagues from Paris, on March the 1st, and you only report it to me on March the 3rd? Louis XVIII made a movement of indescribable anger and alarm and drew himself up straight, as if a sudden blow had struck him both mentally and physically. "In France?" he cried. "The usurper in France? Is he marching on Paris?" "Sire, I know not. The dispatch only states that he has landed and the route he has taken," was the police minister's answer. "How did you get the dispatch?" The minister bowed his head while a deep color suffused his cheeks. "By telegraph, sire." Louis XVIII took a step forward and crossed his arms as Napoleon would have done. "So," he said, turning pale with anger, 7 allied armies overthrew that man. A miracle of God placed me on the throne of my fathers after an exile of 25 years, during which time I studied, probed, analyzed the men and affairs of this France that was promised me, so that when I had attained my desires, the power I held in my hand should burst and break me. What our enemies say of us is only too true. We have learnt nothing and forgotten nothing. If I had been betrayed like him, some consolation would be left to me. But to be surrounded by men whom I have raised to high dignities, who were to watch over me with more care than over themselves, who before my time were nothing, and who when I have gone will again be nothing, and will probably perish through their own inability and ineptitude? Oh, cruel fate! Oh, I would sooner mount the scaffold of my brother Louis XVI than thus be forced down the steps of the Tuileries by ridicule. You do not know what ridicule is in France, yet you ought to know. And now, messieurs," he continued, turning toward Monsieur de Blacas and the police minister, "I have no further need of you. The war minister alone can help now." Then suddenly, turning to Baron d'André, he asked, "What further news have you in regard to the Rue Saint-Jacques affair?" "Sire," the Minister of Police replied, "I was about to give your Majesty the latest information on the matter when your Majesty's attention was attracted towards the other terrible catastrophe. Now these facts will not interest your Majesty. On the contrary, monsieur, on the contrary, it seems to me that this affair may have some direct connection with the other, and the death of General Quesnel will perhaps put us on the direct track of a great internal conspiracy." Villefort shuddered at the name of General Quesnel. "In fact, sire," the Minister of Police continued, "everything goes to show that his death was not due to suicide, as was at first believed, but was the work of some assassin. Apparently General Quesnel left the precincts of a Bonapartist club and disappeared. An unknown man had called on him in the morning and arranged a meeting in the Rue Saint-Jacques." While the minister was telling his story, Villefort, who seemed to hang on his very words, turned alternately red and pale. The king turned to him. "Do you not share my opinion, Monsieur de Villefort, that Quesnel, who was believed to be attached to the usurper, though he was in reality entirely loyal to me, was the victim of a Bonapartist trap?" "It is very probable, sire, but have you no further information?" "We are on the track of the man who made the appointment with him. We have his description. He is a man of 50 or 52 years of age, has brown hair, dark eyes with bushy eyebrows, and wears a mustache. He was dressed in a blue coat, and in his buttonhole wore the rosette of an officer of the Legion of Honor. Yesterday, a man answering to this description was followed but was lost sight of at the corner of the Rue de la Jussine and the Rue Coq-Héron." Villefort leaned against the back of a chair. His legs seemed to be giving way under him, but when he heard that the unknown man had escaped his pursuers, he breathed again. "Seek this man out," said the king to the police minister. "For if, as everything leads me to suppose, General Quesnel, who would have been so useful to us now, has been the victim of a murder, I will have his assassins severely punished, be they Bonapartists or not. I will not detain you longer, Baron. Monsieur de Villefort, you must be fatigued after your long journey. Go and rest. You are putting up at your father's house, no doubt?" Villefort seemed on the point of fainting. "No, your majesty," he said. "I'm staying at the Hôtel de Madrid, in the Rue de Tournon." "But you will see him?" "I think not, sire." "Ah, of course," said Louis XVIII, smiling in a manner which showed that all these questions had been put to him with a motive. "I was forgetting that you are not on good terms with Monsieur Noirtier. Another sacrifice to the royal cause, for which you shall be recompensed." The king detached the cross of the Legion of Honor, which he usually wore on his blue coat, and giving it to Villefort, said, "In the meantime, take this cross." Villefort's eyes filled with tears of joy and pride. He took the cross and kissed it.